Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for episode 6 of NFTV. Today we have the legendary Jeremy Jenson joining us. Man is incredibly creative. He's all over the place in Web3. If you're paying attention at all, you should know his name or at least know of him. He is the founder and creator of the DeadHeads NFT and animated series. He also founded the AI Art House and GMI Studios, which are both incredible projects in their own right and working with tons of artists. And we can get a little bit deeper into that here in just a little bit. So without further ado, King Jeremy, thank you very much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time and are looking forward to hearing more about the DeadHeads and your journey in Web3 so far. Good morning and welcome.
GM, my friends,
GM. Well, King, we could kick it off in 100 places. And I've been, just so you know, I minted 2 DeadHeads on Mint Day. Very excited about the project. It was one of the earlier NFT projects that I cared about at all. It seemed very exciting to me and was right up my alley of what I'm looking for in this space. And you all have nailed it, hitting an absolute home run at the moment. And I don't think any community competes with you all as far as creativity and engagement, excitement, trailblazing. You guys are really doing it all. And so before we even get started, I'd like to say, thanks for your contribution to the space so far. It's been great to watch the DeadHeads evolve in the 1 year that we've been witnessing that journey. And it's very exciting to watch it evolve. And, you guys are rolling out tons of new stuff all the time, all kinds of announcements, and just been really exciting. So before we even get started, Jeremy, I'd like to say that thank you for your contribution to the space so far. You've added a lot, and we all really appreciate it, even if you don't hear it all the time.
man, that means the world. No, thank you so much. Because we were early, we're so lucky to be a lot of people's early projects in space. And I'm sure a lot of those people will go on to incredible things as well, which is part and parcel of what makes this space so incredible. So we were just happy to make it and still are having the time of our lives building it. So
It looks like it. So
yeah,
as
good.
as we kick that off, can you give us a little bit of background? I know you've probably given this info to several people with interviews, but just for our community, I'd love to get a little bit of background on maybe why you chose Web3, and was the DeadHeads an idea that was originated prior to the Web3 space really popping off? And I mean pop off in the last 15, 18 months, not 4 years ago. And just kind of how did that idea bubble up and come to fruition?
I'm gonna tell this story differently than I told it before, just for
Please.
excitement. That way, everyone in here gets to hear a different story. Because I know a lot of people have heard a lot of interviews that I've done before. So when I was about 12, YouTube was really, really young, like its first year or two. And I made a video on YouTube that kind of went viral. It topped the gaming category, and I became the #1 gaming channel in the world in 2010.
Wow. What years is this? Like 2007,
It's
2008?
2009, 2010.
Okay.
No one knows this. And so I'd never considered film. But when I was so young at that point, and film was so early. I mean, it was like handy cam time. I was like, this is truly the most thrilling thing I've ever done, making this YouTube video in 2010. So then I doubled down on film, but I actually got bullied in class for making the video, so I deleted them all except for one because I was so embarrassed about making those videos. So then, fast forward, I was like 13, and I'm in film. We had a film class in our high school, and I just started to love film. So all throughout high school, I was making films and going to film festivals and just really obsessed with the art. And so then we had a team of 4 guys, and when it came time to pick a university, um, a few of them went to all of them went to film school except for me, and I went to do media, information, and technoculture. Now, when I went to university, I felt like a felony because I just wanted to be back in film. So I graduated in 3 years, and I went over and joined some production company to do film work. Lo and behold, the days were rainy and muddy. It's Vancouver in the winter. It rains every day, and you're working 15-hour days,
In a
just
dungeon anyway.
lugging.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just lugging stuff, man. It's awful. It's awful. So I'm working these 15-hour days for like 6 months to a year, and I just realized this isn't for me. And I started to shoot social media stuff on the side for a lot of the celebrities on set just because I was making friends. And then a digital marketing agency said, "Hey, we'll make you a marketing a marketing manager." And I was like, I was pretty good at building websites. I built a few forums when I was a kid. I was pretty effective. I joined the marketing agency, and I was instantly just killing it for their clients. Like, so they promoted me to a senior in like the first year, but then the clients poached me. So I actually left to work for one of their clients on a consulting basis. And then I did my own consulting and marketing for like 3 years. And I was just building sites and killing on SEO. And it was an incredible experience. And they were all doing really, really well. But then my friend called me Tempo and said, I've been making AI art. And you're the guy in the city who makes e-commerce sites pop. Like, you're the guy who understands marketing. Like, can you help me market these artificial intelligence pieces? So I did my research, what's coming up, what's busy. This is January 2021. And I was like, NFTs would be a great place for this, but let's just start small and start shipping them. So we started shipping these AI art pieces, and in our first month we did amazingly well, like shockingly well. Like, it got picked up by a ton of news articles because it was so crazy and weird. And then instantly we called OpenSea and said, hey, this AI artwork would be a perfect NFT. And the rest is history because we started making AI art as NFTs. And then
Awesome.
once we understood NFTs, it was a natural conclusion to go, this would be the greatest entertainment technology that we've perhaps ever seen if done right.
Agreed. Agreed. So is that how did you guys kick off AI Art House first? Was that the first step into the space? Was the AI Art House with Tempo, or was that is that a later development?
Yeah, I'll give a little bit of alpha. If anyone here goes to gmistudios.io, you'll see kind of actually the umbrella brand. gmistudios.io was just made like 2 days ago. So we haven't even announced it, but it essentially shows
Awesome.
DeadHeads AI House in Janai.
You just announced it right here.
Yeah,
Boom.
exactly.
We feel honored.
Boom,
Thank you.
boom. Yeah, awesome.
I'm on there right now.
Yeah.
Nice. Love
Yeah,
it.
as I was checking out that site, I see you guys have, I'm doing a little bit of research. You guys have 20, it says 20 animators, editors, writers, makers, doers, and thinkers. Is that 20 animators from the traditional space that you guys are funneling into Web3, or is that creators that are Web3? I don't want to use the word natives because who's a Web3 native here really? But are those people that were in the crypto space and crypto natives, or are they newcomers that are applying their talents to the space?
It's a mix. We have, so that's 20 of every position basically. So
Oh
it's
wow,
like
wow.
no, it's not 20 of each. 20 total. So
Yeah.
it's 20 total people. Yeah. So we have in there, we have community manager, we have the editors, we have the writers, we have the director, the producers. There's so many people, and originally they were from the community, but as we get bigger and we realize that in order to build an IP that is going to absolutely change the world, we need to do it with keeping in mind that building an amazing story isn't an easy task, and we need to find the right people to create that. So as we get more mature, as it were, like in the space, we find more and more incredible professionals. Like, we had the Simpsons previs person do episode 5,
Wow.
and it kind of showed like the shot complexity was a lot better.
Awesome. It's so cool that you guys are getting people like that to come into the space and contribute. So you said Tempo, and I saw a couple other people that were affiliated with the Deadheads project. It was Tempo FU or Tempo Fu, not sure how they pronounce that, and then Drop Acid 9, and then Palsy Baby. Are they equal creators in this venture, or did you pick them up on the way after the idea? I know you said you kicked it off with Tempo, but you are the sole founder or creator of Deadheads, if I'm not mistaken. And did you bring them on for your idea? And was the animated series planted the same day as the Deadheads series or the Deadheads art? Was it, this is what this is the direction we're going, and we know exactly what's next? Or was it kind of feeling in a dark room to see what the best route was?
I actually have a YouTube video out where I talk about what I think the perfect project would be. And I speak about narrative a lot, and I speak about the way in which project will die if it isn't interesting to follow. So when we were thinking about how to make something interesting to follow, you kind of think naturally gaming or film. And then, given all the history I provided you, film was the most obvious of the two paths. And then we just considered, how could we create? We already had the characters were made, because if you look up resurrectables on OpenSea, you'll see these rapping, basically deadheads spinning. It's all AI audio, and they're super under the radar.
Is this the
But
first thing? I saw the Biggie thing that you guys posted. It was like I want to say it's like 8 months ago, maybe longer than that. Is this the same category of pieces from there, or the same creation process?
yeah, I wonder if I can put it in this chat. Basically, if you type OpenSea.io/collection/resurrectables, resurrectable plural resurrectables, you'll see them. Basically, this was the origin of Deadheads, because Tempo had this deepfake audio, and he wanted to put it on a model that kind of represented what it would look like. And we found Pawsey, and we were like, "You're an amazing artist. Like, this would be a perfect combo for us." Anyways, once we'd made these for the Resurrectables, we instantly realized like that the meta was to have a big community, and if you only have a few pieces, you have a very small community. So we wanted to kind of double down and make a lot of these. And then as we were going on that journey, it's like, yeah, it just kind of all pieced together. It's like, well, we had this idea to create like an entertainment NFT brand with all the characters kind of acting and participating in a narrative. And then here are some characters that are perfect for creating a narrative. And one thing led to the next, and became Deadheads.
It's incredible. I'll tell you, the day that you guys dropped your first episode was really, it felt really special to me. And I'm not just saying that to hype you up here. I've been in the space. I started buying Bitcoin in 2012, and my initial idea was I want to store all my music on chain and never have to think about it again. And it be stored, have a storage solution, and this be where my content lives forever. And then when you guys rolled that out, and I was like, wait a second, you guys are allowing people to own a piece of a show. And that really doesn't hit too many people in the way of like a business orientation thought process there. It's really more of usually a collector that's not really somebody's collecting a bunch of Simpsons pieces over the course of 20 years. They're usually not doing so because they're chasing number go up. They're doing so because they actually appreciate the art or care about the show or have some nostalgic feeling that's drawing them to that. And I feel like you guys have really embodied that with with your presentation so far. I remember the day you guys rolled out the first episode and you dropped the dead tickets, and I went and claimed my dead ticket. I was like, this is fire. And then you guys did the green room, and you're creating objects from that episode that people can own. And then you guys dropped the Skull Troopers. And to me, this really looks like the natural progression of a animated world that will compete with The Simpsons, with South Park, with insert whatever your favorite show is. And, when did you guys drop your first episode? What was the date? Do you know?
Don't know the exact date, but
Okay.
it was I want to say it was August.
Yeah, I'd say about then too. And I looked last night. I mean, you guys are on YouTube. You guys are over 50,000 views in 6 months. And I mean, this isn't a huge space. Not most people in my life aren't, hip to NFTs and owning a piece of an animated series. They don't even know what that means. There's no concept there. And you guys are 50,000 views deep. And you guys have got the Skull Troopers, you've got urns, the urns going into the Halo kids, and it seems like you guys have really captured what this space, what the potential is. And I'm interested to know, when you guys set course with this project, do you have a series cap in mind? And I say that, as I went through and read you guys' website, and it says, and I'll read it to you, and I know you know this, but for our listeners, our goal is to extend into traditional media platforms such as Netflix or Amazon, while you retain ownership of our characters in a decentralized model. Imagine if you owned Obi-Wan from Star Wars. And as I read that, I just wonder, what was your guys' vision day one? And I know it may have changed, and maybe it is changed, maybe it's different today. But was it 10 episodes, and is it still to get picked up? And is there a scenario in which you would refuse to be purchased and remain independent moving forward?
Yeah, I think joining one of those platforms would have to be on our own terms. I don't know if it would be like the characters they they they're like owned by other people, so there's just no there's no way that they can ever be bought by any big brand.
Right.
I mean, unless they went in and bought them themselves, which is completely viable. I think, yeah. So it's quite a large question. When we started, we knew that we wanted a narrative. We knew that we wanted to find the best animators and the most creative. We wanted to find people who basically worked on the project out of love and got paid and had asset appreciation, which is not something that any animator can say for any other show they've worked on. And I think that was a really core concept is like, you're creative, you have a space here to work with us and create and build brand equity and personal equity with what you create. And as we go on this journey, it's becoming a bit more clear how maybe we should not have done it in the past, or how we should have done it in the past, or how we know in the future we can do a better job. And I think that's what's so important is we're constantly looking forward and thinking, what can we do next to make sure that we're finding the best possible story and we're building the best possible kind of underworld. Another big thing that I want to talk about is it's not all about the series. And I think that's one thing we kind of die on the hill of the series is that as deadheads. But people can just like the art too, because we do have some of the most incredible art between Skull Troopers and Deadheads.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so if people just like the art, like that's totally fine. I mean, that's cool just to love the art.
Yeah, the rainbow haired deadhead is maybe my favorite. It's one of my favorite NFTs to see in the space. It really is beautiful. I don't know what it is about it kind of looks like Play-Doh hair, and something like invokes nostalgia in me while being brand new and being like the future at the same time. It really hits everything for me. I don't know if there's another NFT that hits the way the rainbow deadhead hits for me. But that's, you bring that up on the series, and something I found interesting, you guys having such a creative community, is right after you guys rolled out your first episode, or maybe it was your second or third episode, actually, excuse me. The Ghost Bus Kids rolled out a series, which I think, and I don't want to be offensive, so I excuse me if any of the creators of that are listening, and I call it a derivative animated series when that's not really what it is. You guys are really a community of creators that are the foundation is the art and the tokens itself. And I find it really interesting that you all are rolling out a series, and then there's independently, separate from you, a derivative, if you will, another series that's being created with this content. How do you feel about that as the founder? And like, there's just such an interesting dynamic there, of what if a derivative show became bigger than the main show, and like that's not I don't intend any knock at all. That's not what the energy I'm going for. I'm just saying, like, what an interesting time to have a community based show where you are actually, and I don't, not competition, but like you're all building together from the same brand. Do you have any thoughts on that about your community, creating a show that is in the same world as yours, and maybe even speak on the game a little bit that was created for Deadheads by Deadheads community?
It'd be fantastic if people did like if there was a show that's
Right.
big at the Deadheads, that means that it's a big show. So
Yeah.
everyone wins, and I'm sure we would know the creators of it and we'd be able to talk and trying to sort of understand how we can how it came to be. And yeah, that's kind of the beauty of it is we want people to be creating incredible stuff. And Cool Crocs is actually one of the creators of a derivative show. He's on speaker right now.
Feel free to jump in, JPZ.
Yeah,
JPZ. Yeah, jump in, baby. Shoot. Come on.
I appreciate you guys. I definitely love Rad TV, and that you guys, we get talked and got Ghost Bus Kids onto that onto your platform, and it's just been a really cool process. I mean, to me, it shows the power of decentralized branding, right? So Deadheads creates a decentralized brand that gives out the IP, and we've already seen such cool things happen, from it. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the Ghost Bus Kids, because we created it, and that's on YouTube for anyone to check out. But also, like you mentioned, the video game, and more of that will happen, and so it just shows the power of decentralized branding, and giving your IP rights away strengthens the original IP. It strengthens the brand, which I think the normal model would say the opposite, right? You hold on to your IP rights because you don't want the brand to get diluted. But we're seeing, this future of Web3 is quite the opposite. The power is in the hands of the consumers or the community, and it strengthens everything. So I love it. I hope our Cool Crocs cartoon can also be part of Rad TV, and just we're building the future of animation in my mind. A new golden age. Animation cartoons have had a couple golden ages through the years, but I believe that we're on the verge of another one.
Totally, totally. Well, and like the aspect of Web 2 versus Web 3. I mean, we've asked this question before, and I think it's an interesting question, particularly for our, if we're talking about the streaming world and content creation and how expensive it can be to create content. Like if you're going to get something to a Netflix level or a top tier network, generally, from we have some of our investors are, like one of them made BoJack Horseman, so like we're hearing it directly from them on how much it costs to make a real series like that, and it can be $1 million an episode. And so how do you guys think about the initial sale can generate some, the resales can obviously create a long tail opportunity, but I think what it comes down to is, and this is the question that we've asked before, is we'd love to hear your take on, is at what point do you say, we don't need, we'll say no to Netflix. If Netflix and Hulu comes knocking and they want to take your IP, even if they can, I mean, in some cases they can't, but if they want to come pay for your show and take it for themselves, and that essentially takes it out of the Web3 ecosystem, when do you say no to that? Is there what's the balance of dollars and versus control for you? And that's for Jeremy, but everybody else too.
Yeah. So the thing is, we're not ever really wanting to give up control, and like in the mechanisms in which that happens, we're extremely. It's just not really. Yeah, I just don't think that. I don't think we're going to need to, unless it got to a point where the community would want it, where it's like this is a step that we otherwise can take. I think for us right now, it's we're focused on getting as many eyes as possible. So often traditionally it's seen as like the best way to do that is go through those streams where the viewers already are. But you also can see that in this new age, people can get, this kind of level of viewership on other mediums. Like Mr. B said the other day, one of his videos has more views than the entire subscribership of Netflix. So we're very we're very like cognizant that demand is kind of the goal. You want as many fans as possible. And we don't know what the future will look like. We're obviously not clairvoyant. So we just go ahead and build on YouTube right now the best we can build. We're going to do shorts coming up. These shorts will be done by different studios and different writers. And then as we develop, we'll kind of assess, we'll assess what our revenues are and how big the community is getting, and, how we can kind of traverse maybe changing the playbook a little bit. Although, of course, one of our goals is to reach traditional subscribers of these platforms, as stated on our website, and that is an obvious North Star that can rally behind.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a bridge. Not everybody will be in Web3 using crypto, buying NFTs, using NFT gates to access content. I mean, we're still a number of years away from that mass market opportunity for sure. It'd take a little bit more time. How do you guys think about, another thing that I thought of as you were talking earlier was how do you guys think about incentives for the community? Obviously, they can stake and earn tokens, and which is kind of a legal gray area if you think about securities laws. Potentially, like lots of people aren't, because it'll take 10 years before the rules catch up with everybody. But curious how you guys are thinking about the incentive structures, and because you've obviously done a number of things where you create deadheads, then there's skull troopers, and you can like get earns, and then staking and earning tokens from that. And so how what are you thinking in terms of your strategy there, and how to best engage the community in a way that keeps them engaged, keeps them incentivized? And because as far as I'm concerned, like, deadheads is still way undervalued for the value that you guys are providing.
I can't believe they're at 0.16. I really
It's
cannot
wild.
believe it. Yeah.
Like, I'm about to buy another one right now. But yeah, just curious about how you guys are thinking about the future of the incentive mechanisms, and potentially how that ties into the long tail of growing beyond 10 or 20,000 holders and fans. Like, how does that expand out into the broader ecosystem?
Yeah, I think the pricing is something that we talk about a lot because obviously everyone who buys to NFTs will pretty much buy them in order to make a profit. And
Hmm.
at the end of the day, you kind of want to show people that being with you is going to, over the long term, be the best use of their money and or time.
Hmm.
So we talk a ton about the price, for better or worse, and we think there's a lot of factors at play here that kind of keep us at bay, but everything kind of always comes back to, if we can create the best story, like the best premise and the best reason, like the best kind of narrative, we will win. Like like we sure we might not be like a board eight, but we will like continually grow. The more people
Hmm.
who enter and enjoy our story, the bigger we get. It is as simple as that. So everything kind of points back to finding our premise that reaches and resonates with a lot of people.
I think
Um,
I think you guys are doing that.
yeah, we were doing our best. Every time it gets better technically or story wise, and that's the best we can do, is continually get better and pivot. And I think by creating so many episodes, we open ourselves to less speculation because we are doing so much. It's like we are putting everything we can into finding our best premise. And I do honestly envisage in a few years the season one will be seen very much as a proof of concept, and
Mhm.
we'll probably have a very unique kind of narrative. Like we yeah. And in
Hmm.
terms of building in the integration, we're just trying to stay true to DeFi. I mean, there's so many interesting ways which DeFi allows communities to participate and gamify their experience of ownership, be it burning or staking. It's just a fantastic way to participate with deadheads because if you do believe in the ecosystem, getting show is like enabling you to kind of down. So if you're going to hold, you might as well, stake. And it, because the show token is unknown in its utility in terms of how big the ecosystem could get and what it could be used for. And then the burning is a great mechanism because it kind of plays with the float, kind of plays with the supply, and that will be.
Hey, Jeremy, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you were getting cut off, I think, at the end. But I love what you
Sorry, my
mentioned.
alarm went off.
Oh, I love what you were talking about a second ago in terms of like the season one being seen as a proof of concept. There's something that in the music industry was referred to as A&R, right? Artist and repertoire. And it was basically like you would sign artists or songwriters or producers and things like that to a contract to work with your company for X number of years. And you would develop them, right? They were given this opportunity to kind of like workshop their craft and develop as artists. And I feel that that's being allowed to kind of develop again inside of
Interesting.
Web3 and some of the NFT space, just because you're able to get monetization to allow you to explore all these different ideas. And that's existed. It's not gone away. It's just that so much has consolidated around these like triple threat, performers and entertainers, and so much distillation of industries into people that can be put on screen or put on stage, or multiple different types of screens or whatever. And the fact that like you brought that up, I think kind of speaks to us wanting more diversity in terms of the flavors of entertainment that we get, as opposed to seeing like a handful of people everywhere. We can put deadheads everywhere. That to me is an important thing too, with the projects that I work on. So it's awesome to hear you reference that.
Michael, that was such a good take. I think one thing that we need to be wary of in the NFT space is there's so much money flying around for so many different reasons, and all those reasons are more or less unknown. So a lot of people will get it. You know? So a lot of people like hammer down and try and figure it out. But I met a guy at a real life event yesterday in Vancouver who owned DeadHeads and didn't even know the show had a series.
Wow. Wow.
Like, think about all the buyers who just
out
open
there
their
flipping.
page.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not even flipping.
But that's a great
Say
opportunity to build culture. Like you get to introduce them to that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I guess people kind of come for different reasons, and people love to collect NFTs, and the reasons why are kind of one of the best debates on the planet right now.
Agreed.
People love to collect this visual asset class, and I think there's a lot to it that transcends. Like, yes, there's the people who want more entertainment. There's probably a subsector of people, or maybe more, like, that really do have a desire for something fresh after all these remakes and whatnot. But then there's also like a massive part of NFTs, and I think arguably the biggest is the cohort who want to basically flex a portfolio. If you had a lot of Apple stock, you couldn't exactly go to the club and show everyone your Apple
Yeah, it's like
Apple holdings.
It's like you'd be really looked down on if you posted your Robinhood holdings or E-Trade holdings. You'd be like, "What is this guy doing?"
It would be criminal. I mean, people would just say, people looking, I don't even know what I'm looking at. Like, there's no green line. Oh, good job. Oh, there's your money. Like, people would hate it. But if you post a photo of like a gold Bored Ape, it's like, oh, wow. So there's something happening there as well.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's like some forgiveness, some cultural forgiveness that we've granted. Like, yes, go ahead and show us how much money you have, please. We'd like to see. And like, we just don't care in this space.
Yeah. We want to see how much money you have in a pretty picture.
Well, people are happy to kind of show off their assets or their things, their belongings in a lot of different ways. I mean, MTV Cribs was that, I guess then being like a braggart about money is the part that's people find distasteful.
Yeah, it's subtle. If you walk into somebody's house and they have a Picasso on the wall just kind of hanging, and they don't say anything about it, and you just walk into their house, like, they're flexing hard. They might not be necessarily talking about it, but they're like,
right.
If you know.
Flexing. Yeah.
But I do think there's a desire for new IP, fresh IP. And I mean that's proven. There's provably a desire for like fresh concepts and IP as well. I just it's always a good debate, and one that I always take the devil's advocate side, because it's impossible to say everyone's getting in it for one reason or the other. There's so many different reasons happening in the NFT space right now, and entertainment, us together are kind of one of these small niches, like us, Stoner Cats, I'm forgetting a bunch of the other names, but there's just like tiny little niche of us entertainment companies playing with NFTs, and we're gonna have our day, but we need to all be really collaborative in how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, I mean, a lot of people don't realize, like, if you go look back at the first South Park pilot episode, it was like so different, and it was funny when you look back on it now, but like if you would have seen that for the first time, and already you had like Simpsons and all kinds of kind of established animation, and then you watch South Park for the first time, you'd be like, what? But now it's it's obviously like the longest running, or one of the most successful cartoons in history. Same thing with even Rick and Morty. Like, if you watch the first Rick and Morty, you can tell from where it started to where it is now how crazy polished it was. And those were basically experiments from people pushing the boundaries and what you do in animation or comedy and whatnot. So to see the experimentation that's happening right now, people might look back on it in 5 years and be like, yeah, I remember when this came out, and where it's come to now is just crazy impressive compared to where it started.
I agree with it. You guys have on your website that you guys have a unique place in NFT history as the first collection to become its own animated series, as well as it ultimately being the first bottom-up funded production house, and obviously series tied into that. Do you feel any responsibility or pressure to deliver with statements like that being on your shoulders as the founder of a community?
I feel pressure to do right by all the people who believed in us. I feel zero pressure on like a historical basis.
Awesome. And is that a historical basis because you feel proven and you've already shown up and done the work, and now it's about what's next as opposed to showing up initially?
Yeah, ultimately, being the first has a level of importance, but it isn't the end all. The best content will always win the day. So I think, like, just look at Bored Apes. I think our only focus is trying to make the story as good as possible and hoping, well, knowing that if we do that, we'll have more people who want to participate in the narrative and be part of the story. And then kind of hoping hoping the NFT macros kind of follow with us, where other entertainment brands are building incredible things, be it Rad TV or Stoner Cats or what have you, and other brands, new ones that we don't even know exist, are building incredible sort of entertainment brands, and it starts to give people an idea of what it looks like to be a successful NFT in entertainment and how your character's value is tethered kind of in a way to the series, but also its own artistic kind of drive. So it's its own piece of art, and it can belong in the series. It's a great value prop, and I think people just don't fully participate in this niche yet. So yeah, I guess we're just got to focus on doing our best, pivoting when necessary, and growing at all times. And then the macros of entertainment NFTs needs to kind of come with us, and that's the only things I think about.
And I'm curious a little bit too about the process. I mean, it was great to hear the story about getting started and how things ramped up, but curious now about how you guys look at a new episode, writing it, getting the voice actors, editing, what does that process look like for you? The cadence of it, how you pick which deadheads are going to be in the episode, all of those things from a creative perspective. How do you guys approach that process? And what have you done right and what have you done wrong? I actually want to come back to the what have you done wrong question kind of more broadly, but particularly from a production perspective, maybe.
Yeah, from a production perspective, season 1, I think so typically you have a great story or you have a great writer, and then you'll take that story and it'll become a book, it'll become a movie, it'll become a game. In this scenario, we wanted to go bottom up, so that meant finding writers from the community premises. And what ended up happening is we had like 3 or 4 writers, and they didn't all get along. So like some of them like left for other reasons, and then we were kind of left with 2 writers who were really great people, but didn't have the experience of what it took to have like the depth to a story. And it's like saying, can you be an architect without, just because you like looking at buildings, it doesn't mean that you understand the complexities of why that structure works and why it's so livable, because the sun hits it at this angle, what have you, right? So working with these community members to establish an original lore was both kind of beautiful in the theory, and in the practice, it kind of left us open to not having the depth to a lore that I would have liked. And this is kind of this is not against the people who wrote it. It's just kind of, you throw someone in the deep end and say, hey, you're not a writer, can you come up with a lore, and you put them all in the writing room, and it's just too much to ask of anybody. So now on season 5 and 6, for the first time, we have professional writers, and it kind of shows. It definitely shows, but they're working off of the back of a premise that they didn't initiate, so it's still quite flawed. And we talk with the founder of Amazon Video, actually, and kind of improve our story and our IP. And he's given some incredible advice, such as, without knowing these characters, our jokes have to be topical. Because if you know Sheldon from Big Bang Theory, his jokes are funny because of who he is.
Yep.
Anyways, I'm going to extreme depth on this, but my point is, our character development, our premise, our lore is something that we now, at the end of season 1, are really starting to set our feet and find. And so I guess my regret is not having more patience. But I think the space moved so fast that we needed to deliver, and we needed to deliver fast, and we needed to try new things.
Agreed.
So it's like both a regret, and it's impossible to say we would have done it differently if we did it again, because there was such a demand for it.
I don't think you should regret it, because you know what? Like they were saying, you look back at these early animatics. The first South Park thing was that card that they did, and it was, the mid '90s or whatever, and it's roughly animated and roughly voiced. And look at what it has turned into over the last, gosh, 25 years. So I wouldn't sweat the early stages of something. Like it's okay to revise and go back and say, you know what, that was kind of like our trial, and now we have emerged into this greater world building and lore capacity, and this is really what we had always envisioned and what we wanted for this thing.
Great energy.
Totally.
Oh, that's such
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
and
exactly.
one example that I think of too, and that is Arrested Development. When that came out, nobody knew the characters. It was completely kind of wild new comedy, and but then it only lasted a few seasons. They tried to bring it back for another fifth season or whatever, which was questionable. But the first season didn't, like, nobody got it. But then if you watch the thing, I've seen the whole series like multiple times now, and every single time you're catching new jokes in there, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so genius how they've layered over the seasons things going back to the first season." So that lore can
Absolutely great
develop over
show.
time. Yeah,
Fantastic writing on that show for sure.
it's
And
really good.
also Archer, if you are fans of some of those actors, they do the voice acting for Archer as well. And I think that kind of like that depth of writing and world building and being able to place jokes that like you don't notice even environmentally in the world, which Arrested did, kind of carries over to that.
Totally. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a
and
great, that's a great example. They like anything where there's layers for different types of viewers, different levels of fandom, where you can come in, watch one episode, or you can know every episode that's ever been, and you have something in there for you. Like that's what it's all about. That's incredible writing.
It took 3-4 years of Kendra watching The Office in the background before I was like, all right, I'll watch a couple episodes. And I watched a couple episodes and I was like, this is the dumbest show I've ever seen. No, it's not funny. And I have 100 tweets. It's like Bill knows. Bill's listening. He knows. I've been tweeting since the show came out. I lived right down the street on Sherman Way from where they recorded at in North Hollywood. And all my friends were super pumped of like, they recorded it right up the street. It's the best show. It's so funny. And I was like, it's the stupidest show I've ever seen. It's not funny. And now it's one of my favorite shows. I think it's one of the best shows ever made. And like you guys are saying, the depth of the character development is so insanely genius that I'm like, oh, that's why I didn't get it. It's because they didn't get it. Season 1, they did, and they had the great premises that Jeremy is speaking of, the great foundation, the great writers that like they do have a direction that they're going. It just takes time, patience, and execution to really get there. And that's, Michael bringing up the A&R potential. That's kind of where we are. We are in the R&D phase of this industry, and everything we build out is not going to stick, but we're feeling it out and seeing where things go. I think the Deadheads you guys have done a wonderful job on your first, you guys are 5 episodes deep. And how many are you planning for season 1, Jeremy?
The next episode will actually be our season finale.
Awesome.
And then we pivot into shorts. So we're starting those right now. They'll kind of roll out without any delay.
Awesome.
Nice.
So
yeah,
you guys, go ahead, Tony.
I know we're starting to get up on time, and I know you got some more questions, Cam. But I think one thing that was like really kind of fun in our last chat last week with Roads to Rome team was, what did you do wrong, and even potentially comedically wrong, right? Like their example was the first few voiceover for episodes they had these microphones and they had them turned around backwards, so they were talking into the back of the microphones, and like we're getting really terrible quality on them. But curious if you guys ran into any hilarious kind of missteps and or just generally things that you would do better. I feel like there's a lot of value to be added to the community by understanding that it's not all, shiny
Yeah,
when
it's
you
not a
you
smooth
sell
road. Yeah.
you sell out a project, and you have a good volume secondary, and you're creating episodes, and but like deep down in there was probably some things that you are cringe about or would have done differently. So just curious to hear about those.
I mean, there's so much I could say to this. I'll say two high level two really high level things are: one, don't start one of these if you don't love it.
Great.
Because you will never last the years it's going to take and that it deserves, because you don't care. If you don't love it, don't even begin. And then the other thing I would say, another high level thing, is take your time. I think a lot of people rush. I know we've done a lot of rushing over the past, a lot of your community members come to you and say, hey, partner with this person, do this, or the community want to see this, or put this tweet out, or put this announcement out. And at the end of the day, if you look at any great project, Bored Apes, they take their time with everything they do. And everything they do is methodical, and it's appreciated because it's you have time to appreciate it. And I think that's one thing, is like, don't rush any part of the process from start to finish. And then specific things that have kind of gone wrong that maybe I'd advise, if someone else is doing this, if you're doing decentralized production, you might want to give everyone the same mic, like to the mic point, because it's kind of difficult for the audio editor if everyone sounds way different.
Yeah.
Some other small things are, if you have if you have a decentralized animation team, you kind of want to make sure everyone has access to all the same files. I mean, if you're working with animators, you want to make sure they're passionate. Like, don't pick animators up off of anywhere, because if they don't really care about what you're doing, you're just going to build another blase kind of production. I mean, there's so many small things I can give. I mean, working with independent artists is kind of the beauty of the space, and there's a lot of them, so make the most of that too.
That's a great transition to a little section I think Tony would like to get more on, and myself as well. Of you brought up the decentralized production team. Can you give us a little bit about what your process is on that decentralized on the production? Are you sending out lines and scripted things to different voiceover characters, and they're sending you back audio, and then you're delivering that to a animator? And is that collected by a person that's running the entire production? How is that? What's that overview look like, high level?
This actually could be interesting for everyone, because I don't know exactly how many people, even Bennett in the audience knows exactly how it goes. So I'll explain how episode 5 and episode 6 are done, because the episodes before were a bit different. So we have two producers. They're responsible for figuring out the pieces and making sure it's all on time and things like that, and make sure everyone's kind of accountable. Then we have a showrunner who is also a head of operations, Netta, who makes sure, hey, we said we'd include like Larva Lads.
She's great, yeah.
Yeah, she's incredible. Let's make sure we include Larva Lads. Here's sort of the character list. And she kind of makes sure the scripts are PC, and make sure the casting list is there. So that's two producers, showrunner. Then there's a director. The director in this case is Nigel Tierney. He's incredible. He's with some, fantastic productions. His resume is online if anyone wants to look it up, but I don't exactly remember the exact things he's worked on, but I think Shrek. He, as our director, works with our animation team. Our animation team is comprised of two people, and then we found in an animation contest, who I thought were incredible, surrounded by more people. So it's those two people never knew each other. They started working together, but then one of them knew someone who had more animators around them. So we then used all of them. So we had the two people who won the contest, and then the person who taught one of the people who won the contest, he brought in more people.
Awesome.
That's modelers, people to model like Ned, like the pufferfish that I actually wrote that in. I thought that'd be hilarious. That's part of the fun. So then those modelers work on like a lot of the scenes and the individual pieces that you claim in the green room. So that's just the animation team. Then the writing team is about 3 people. One for a comedy pass, 2 are professional writers. So the writers work on it. The writers ship it to a previous person who's different than all the people I just mentioned. So in this case, there's a person who made The Simpsons. What they do is they do storyboarding. They make sure that you have kind of the imagery you want to see when you get the final episode is kind of in line with what they envisage. So here's the exact pipeline, all reviewed really quick. You have the writers, 3 of them, 2 of them write it, 1 person does comedy pass. They give it to a previous person. Previous person goes, hey, here are the shots. I'm going to work with the director. These are the shots we want. Like I said, this person did The Simpsons. He just moonlights. That's fantastic. Okay, previs looks good. Ship it to the animation team. There's a hierarchy there that I kind of touched on, but they work amongst themselves in that hierarchy to figure out how the sets need to be made. While they build up the sets, the episode goes through some edits. The sets get built, then the models get made, then the voice actors get the scripts. They say the lines. Then the animators incorporate the movements so that the voice actors look like the actors. Then it gets sent to the audio editor, who finally puts all the audio on it, sends it to us and says, "How is this?" And then we say, "Start again."
Yeah, nice try.
All right. Well, that should be inspiring and a bit of a reality check for anybody that's thinking it's going to be super simple to just fire up a decentralized production this way. I mean, that's after hearing from Roads to Rome last week, and I think they had like 20 people listed in their production crew of, creators working on it. How many people are actually touching a DeadHeads episode on it, the last two?
I don't even know. It's got to be 20 though. Like I try to do my best to explain how many there, but it's hard to keep track of all. I don't even know all of their names. Point they get added so fast. Like
awesome.
The modelers. Yeah,
that's great. Thanks for sharing.
It looks like Jay has a question too there.
Oh yeah. I was just thinking about, well, I have a question from the audience actually. Someone wanted me to ask, but I also wanted to just comment about, you mentioned the end of the season, and then you also mentioned lore and how it was kind of, I don't want to say regret, but not doing it like the traditional model where you build the lore and then build the episode off of that. You're kind of going backwards, but I love that the way you're doing it is now incorporating the community to create the lore. And so I think, just going back to that point, that it provides an opportunity that would have never happened if you had done it the way you talked about doing it, right? Where like lore comes first and then it builds out. So now the community has an opportunity to build out some of that lore, which will really give more ownership, right? Because I mean, that's such a big part of the project is the community ownership of it, and the characters in the form of the the team that's creating it came from within, a lot of them, and now the lore is going to come straight from the community as well moving forward. So I think it really sets it up to be even a stronger foundation than could have been planned. Is just what I wanted to add there. And then my buddy Turbo wants to ask about the impact program, the Twitter impact program, and how that's going. So thank you guys.
Oh man, yeah, that means the world. I think we need to figure out a way to get our community in on the lore. We need to make sure the lore has the layers and depth required, right? So it's a balance of mixing the two together. So it's not just like, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? But having someone say, okay, this happens in this scenario because X, Y, Z. Anyways, and to answer your Twitter impact program, we're gonna have a dashboard and a leaderboard up in the next week, and that is gonna show everyone where they rank, and enable you to kind of try and pick up the pace if you're falling back or know exactly where you're at. I think that'd be pretty exciting, and I couldn't be happier to be deploying that in the next week. The UI is kind of touch and go, but it's the alpha. So
awesome. Hey, anybody, we're getting close to the end, so if anybody in the audience has any questions for Jeremy, our CEO, or anybody else that's here speaking, I encourage you to raise your hand or consider jumping in. Wrapping up here, Jeremy, again, thank you very much for your time. I would want to ask you about AI Art House. I went through that art the other day, and those images that you guys have brought to life and that you have listed on the website looked really interesting to me. And I noticed that you quoted some pieces and brought up the AI creative, the collective Obvious. We actually worked with Obvious to release DKNY's new branding earlier this year, and I thought it was pretty interesting that you guys about the same time when they were getting a lot of the an early credit for doing the AI generative stuff, you guys were right on their tail. And as I was going through your site, it looks like you guys are you guys have some really awesome ideas there. And I just wondered if there's anything you guys have coming up for the AI Art House, or anything you could tell us more about that, of maybe what's in the works. Are you working with any other artists or anything coming up?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have some incredible shit coming up. So incredible actually that there's going to be, we're talking internally about how the Janai structure works, and how to make it kind of work better for the artist. And more on that will come out soon. So Janai is the evolution of AI House, and that means, you know, generative art and AI art. And actually, one of the projects, I worked with a local band who I will remain nameless, to create a generative song. And this song, actually, so essentially has like infinite possibilities of how it can be composed and comprised, but it sounds a little unique, a lot unique every time, because of the way it's done in basically building blocks. And that would be really interesting to release, because I haven't seen anyone try a generative song. I've seen a lot of generative music though. So yeah, that's one of the things, just my personal Jeremy Jenson.
That's very
sort
cool.
of,
Is that, are you guys, and if you can't tell me, if you can't answer, fine. I'm sorry if I'm asking questions that can't be answered this early, but are you guys doing it with, they created basically like loops and you're reconfiguring them, AI's reconfiguring them to create unique arrangements, and that's the generative portion, or are the sounds completely generative as well?
No, so it's actually just crazy. It's like live music, like real music, not electronic music, and then using a structure of AI and blocks. They're like placed together in a way that sounds somewhat cohesive, but as an alpha, they're not very cohesive. To be honest with you, they're pretty close. But I think the concept is so extraordinary is the word. Like it's so extraordinary to hear them, because they're infinite possibilities, that you kind of like let go of the idea of a traditional song structure when you listen. You'll hear it when it comes, but that's kind of like that's, I'm just excited about that. I'm talking about that because that's one that I kind of fathered in August. But there's other artists coming through, and their names will be released soon. Their drops are insane. Like one artist, you know, has been on the scene for like 40 years, and when we drop his name, there'll be some fanfare around the fact that he's going to be doing an NFT drop.
Yeah, that music component sounds awesome. I'd love to see some video of that process and what you use, because I've composed algorithmically, but I wouldn't necessarily call that generative. And what you're talking about kind of reminds me of, I think what the guy from Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor, did with the Fragile, I think, and releasing the stem files and stuff for people to remix.
Right.
Yeah, the name is actually gonna be Liquid Stems. You know, based on this call,
Nice.
I might release stuff today.
Awesome. That's fire. I love
Yo,
that.
this space is hot.
Yeah,
We're
it
getting
is.
multiple
It is.
alphas in here.
Dropping it.
That's awesome.
Does anybody else have any questions for King Jeremy Jenson, the creator of DeadHeads NFT and AI Art House and GMI Studios?
You're doing me too clean. It's just Jeremy Jenson, creator of DeadHeads, and some other wacky shit.
Well, you're doing a lot of cool stuff out here, King. I'm impressed, and I've really enjoyed our conversation today. I think you guys are crushing it, and you're offering a lot to the space right now, and you're very humble, and in everything you've said today, your entire creation process, putting on the table and giving people a behind the scenes look at some hurdles, or you even said regret, and like that's a pretty strong thing for a creator to say about something they love. Excuse me. Just really being open and honest about your creation process at this time, I think is really inspiring to everybody listening, as we all have so many questions and ideas about what can and could be created in this space in the next several years. Before we go, one last thing. I know you guys, Deadheads, you said several times that your goal is to get as many eyeballs as possible. And that is a main differentiator between what you all are doing and what Stoner Cats are doing at the moment, as Stoner Cats require you to hold their NFT to view their series. Are Are you planning to do anything like that in the future? And have you considered maybe adding behind the scenes footage or documentary on the production process, like even like a docu-series that was minutes long? I know you guys have some of that content. Have you considered putting that behind an NFT access wall for your community?
Honestly, no, actually never did it.
Yeah, please do that. That'd be great stuff.
Yeah, I say that just because that's something at Rad that I look forward to as a person that likes these projects. I would like to have maybe some more exclusive access to things like this conversation is incredible. I would love to do conversations like this that were community members only, and you had to have your Deadhead to get in, or your Panda to get in, or your Cool Croc to get in, and let people participate in these softly ticketed events. I know that's something that the space is kind of pushing towards, but you guys have so much content, and as you're rolling out the last episode, I envision you guys are probably collecting more content of recording and audio pieces and bloopers and stuff maybe that maybe don't have a clean funnel directly to the community, and that's just something I'd be interested in seeing from productions like yours and Stoner Cats and Roads to Rome. I'm really interested in the production process of what you guys are doing.
Yeah, thanks so much. I think having community-centered events for members only would be awesome. And yeah, at this point, I hadn't considered it. So thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, no. Jeremy, been great speaking with you today. We'd love to have you back on whenever you have anything to drop or shill or just shoot the shit again. It's been a great conversation, and really looking forward to the next things you're rolling out. And if that's the AI music today, feel free to ping us, you or Bennett or anybody else, Netta, drop us a link on Rad, and we're happy to amplify everything you all are doing out to our community. And any way we can help with promo stuff or distribution, getting it to more eyes, you know where we are and where to find us.
You guys have been such fantastic partners from the jump, and so friendly and kind every step of the way. And what you're building, what people know that you're building, what people don't know that you're building, that is incredible. I know that for a fact. So I'm super excited to see your own trajectory, and it's honestly our privilege that people like you are in the community and evolve through the community and like build things of your own. And I can hardly take anything other way from this conversation than you guys are, forging your own path, and I'm excited to see that and what you guys are able to build, and with all your knowledge and all your resources. So fantastic job, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for that. Hey, before we go, we got Cree. Cree, you raised your hand. You want to get your question in right before we wrap up here?
Yes. Okay. Hi. So
thanks for joining.
Thank you so much. As someone who's dedicated to like just overall helping people in the creative space, right? I've been trying to find different ways to get exposure. What did you say was like the best? What would you say is like the best way to like put yourself out there and build a community?
I would say, I'm just getting an elevator. I would say join an existing, and that way you're understanding what it takes to be a great community. You're understanding what, how to community build. And I'm not just saying that because I want you to join Deadheads. I'm saying that genuinely. I think it's just a good way to learn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Another question for you, Jeremy, about the GMI. GMI studio. Is that something that's going to be hireable for other projects for animation? Are they only going to be producing Deadhead affiliated stuff, or can they be other people to do their projects?
I'm in an elevator.
Uh-oh.
I think that was I'm in an elevator.
I think I caught I'm in an elevator.
Yeah. I think that's what it was too. I think he was in an elevator. Jeremy, are you with us? Is your ride done?
You're going up to the
Okay, I should be with you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, he is.
There you
There
go.
he
You're
is.
Okay, I just got out of the elevator. I'm meeting a production company right now, actually, try and piece all these pieces together. GMI Studios is launching pretty much just the 3 things that you see on the website, and then if something comes our way that's sort of impossible to ignore and they need help, GMI Studios will offer their services, but it's mainly to like sort of advance the. Think of it at GMI Studios like Pixar. If that makes sense. Like if we're launching something, it's going to be like kind of also with us involved. So let's say Margot Robbie comes and she wants to launch something, and it's her own IP. That's like a bit of a different scenario than like your average person trying to launch something. Because in this case, it could have some real like propulsion that could feed into the other projects. That's kind of, I guess what I'm trying to say is think of GMI Studios like Pixar.
Nice. All right, we're not going to hold Jeremy up for his meeting. He's obviously on his way, and we did tell him an hour. He's already overtime with us. So, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been another great space. I really look forward to these spaces on Friday. It's like I look forward to it all week. It's so fun, and
it makes my week.
It does. It really does. So again, I just want to give another shout out to Jeremy Jenson. Thank you for joining us today, King. And everyone who is listening, if you haven't checked out the DeadHeads series yet, you can do so on Rad. All the episodes are on Rad. They're also on YouTube, but we encourage you to not use YouTube. So come on over to Rad. And anybody who's listening, if you're a creator that's considering doing your own NFT drop or wanting to put content behind an NFT access wall, feel free to reach out to us, Rad, and DMs, or jump in our Discord. Our whole team's in Discord. They're chatting in there every day. Our devs are in the dev channel doing everything in the open. You can follow what we're doing all day. And every Friday we meet right here at noon with our CEOs on here, our head of design, our head of marketing, our head of product, our head of data is here. Literally our whole team is on Twitter and Discord every day, and you all are a big part of our building process and what we strive to build for. So, any input and questioning of what we're doing, we are absolutely listening. So, this
one other thing too is this Twitter space, Cam records it and it goes up to a podcast. So it ends up on Spotify and iTunes and YouTube, Rad. So this will live on after this space as well. So we'll share that out soon.
Yes, we will. I hope you all
amazing. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Jeremy. Awesome.
Thanks
for all your great work with DeadHeads and your contribution to the space, King. All right. See y'all next week. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Rad NFTV. I've been your host, Cam Gray.
Bye, everybody.
I'll see y'all next week. Thanks again, Jeremy. Thanks, Tony.
Great weekend.
Michael, thanks for tuning in. See y'all next time.